Hi, my name's Kelly Dean. I'm Manager Client Services at Gosford CSC on the Central Coast. Today I'm going to be walking us through the RMD and some of the features that it has, but also some of the practicalities of how we might use it in our everyday work in the CSC. Okay, so to kick us off today, I'm just going to show you what some of the data will look like that you're looking at when you're using the RMD. So there's two tabs, there's child protection and there's out of home care. And each of those is broken down to a CSC view. And so that's already on the screen, and the district view. And this will show us the data for the district. So at the moment it's selected Murrumbidgee district. You can see that that's an example of year-to-date actuals and year-to-date targets for face-to-face assessments in this district. And just as the child protection tab has those two views, so does the out of home care tab. So if we were looking at the CSC view in out of home care, we would have access to a number of tiles that break down the cohort of children in the CSC, case plans, home visits, for example. And if we were looking at the district overview, out of home care, we'd be seeing the same options, but that data included in those tabs is for the whole district. If you click on a tile and you're looking at the specific data that sits behind that tile, then the easiest way to get back to that home screen is literally to press the home button in the top left corner. I'm going to explain the tiles now. There's three sections. So there's children and young people subject to or requiring field assessment. We see that there's a triage and allocation section, and then casework in progress. So if you click on any of these tiles, it will give you the data that sits behind that. I just want to point out that a few of the tiles have different numbers on them. For an example, here in the safety assessments overdue, there's a small number 2 here, and that's just to prompt us about the timeframes of completing a safety assessment. So now I'm going to show you one of the other features. If we click on a tile, so for instance this field assessments in progress tile, it'll just bring up for us the way we can actually view the data and sort it. So this just gives you a little sample of where you can see each manager's name is listed and the owner of that data. So we can actually change the values there and put in which manager casework's data we'd like to look at or which caseworker's data. Bit of a prompt here though is to actually often use the all values as the selection, because that way we get to see all of the data and we're not going to miss any of the children that might be included in that information. If you were a manager casework and wanted to know what risk assessments were overdue for your caseworkers, you could just click on the tile that says risk assessments overdue. It'll default to all values, so for the whole CSC, but if you wanted to particularly look at your teams, then we can see it broken down into each caseworker. And that's really helpful in your manager casework role to be prioritising and planning and using that information to inform workload planner sessions and helping your caseworkers prioritise their work. So one of the things that I find really user-friendly about the RMD is the tiles and how easy it is to transfer a number to the story or the data that sits behind it. So for example, I've just clicked on the children seen this month in this CSC, and I actually get a list straight away of all of the children that this CSC has submitted a safety assessment for. And if there was anything in particular that I wanted to drill down and gather some more detail about, I've got a quick link straight into Child Story with the child identifier number already there. I'm going to press home and go back to my options around child protection or out of home care. Let's just have a play in the out of home care tab. So this is broken down into children under parental responsibility of the Minister or care to the Secretary, case managed by DCJ. And again, that information is coming straight from Child Story, so really important that we've got our Child Story records up to date. We can see case plans, the percentage of how many children have a out-of-home care case plan. This graph is really helpful to break down some trends. So are we trending in a way that's moving upwards and we're actually at 90% of children having a case plan? We've just had a look at the case plan compliance in this CSC for children in out-of-home care. But if we were interested to look at the district view, I'll just click here and then we can see that same graph but that's for the whole district. So one of the new enhancements with the out-of-home care tab is that we actually have access to a lot more detailed information about our children in out-of-home care, so that's really helpful. So I'm just going to spend a bit of time exploring that now. One of the new features on the RMD is to be able to look at this out-of-home care data in terms of task view and details view. So this is the details view, and again we can select whatever CSC, whatever manager, some specific data around that group of children, so their Aboriginal status or their age, for example. And here, if we look at the tasks view, this will actually give us a list of the tasks that need to be completed. So these tasks, for example, are still outstanding for this child. At the bottom of most of the tiles and the sections in the RMD data, we can see that there's opportunity to refresh, print or export data, that you can then export that data into Excel, for instance, or into a PDF format, and you can manipulate that data, distribute it to your staff. This new feature in the RMD is really helpful for doing planning work alongside your caseworker. So they might have a home visit with a particular child planned for next week. You can print this off for them, you can share this with them, and they can see, okay, I don't have a cultural plan for this child, or I haven't got their updated health management plans. As you're scrolling through the RMD, you'll notice that at different places there's quick reference guides. So those quick reference guides are there to help us with tips on how to create certain reports that we can use daily or weekly straight from the RMD data. So there's lots of day-to-day opportunities to use this data. And just while I'm here, I might highlight the feature that all of the data in the RMD is actually linked to hyperlinks for particular child story IDs. So we can click straight onto a child and that will take us straight into child story. So that's a very useful feature as well. So the data in RMD is actually downloaded straight from child story every morning. So each day you'll notice that the data is a bit different. So if you've updated something in the course of the day and you go into RMD, you might notice that it hasn't been reflected in there yet, but overnight it will get updated. And again, that's just another reason to mention it's really important that our child story information and our detail in child stories is up to date as possible. I just probably want to summarise a few of the main features in the Child Protection tab. So for me as a manager client services, and what I see my manager caseworks using quite regularly, is the tab about field assessments in progress, how many children we've seen this month and how many children we want to see. And we can click on see how many children have been reported at Roche to the CSC and that we haven't commenced a field assessment. We can easily see if there's any outstanding safety assessments, so we can easily see what risk assessments are overdue, what children have a family action plan, whether there's a risk reassessment overdue. So all of the things that manager caseworks and manager client services are talking with caseworkers in the CSC about every day. Similarly, in the out-of-home care space, I think the features that I see managers using every day are around case plans. So what children have a current case plan, when they're coming up, and what children have had a home visit, for instance, in the last 45 days. There's a really clear list of the children without a home visit in the last 45 days. So if I click in here, that will give us a list of all of them. So as a manager casework, you can print that for your caseworkers in your team, and you can take that to your priority meeting on a Monday morning or whenever you have a team meeting and set the priorities for the week. This data just informs that discussion. And we've got these new tiles now around child wellbeing and child profiles, so we can easily click in to see how many children have something in their case plan about placement and permanency. And if they don't have something in their case plan about that, then that easily prompts you to make sure that we include that in our case plan review, in our upcoming case plan meeting, or to gather some new information for our next home visit. So one of the main benefits that I really feel the RMD offers is it doesn't just give us the numbers, it actually gives us the practice that sits behind that. So it's really easy as a manager client services, for instance, to see what children and families have had a timely service, whether we've done the assessments that we need to do, whether we've got a current case plan in place to guide our casework intervention with a family, whether we're measuring progress against that case plan via risk reassessment. So yeah, we can use the RMD to find that information really easily. Manager caseworks, manager client services, district leaders all have opportunity to access the RMD, and the way we need to do that is through the ServiceNow portal. So on ServiceNow, you just need to select ICT and CIW access, and then you'll be prompted to do some training. So it's pretty self-explanatory. The training will come to you, you complete that training in Ignite, and then you'll be granted access. Okay, so as you're navigating around the RMD, you'll notice that there's a couple of options in terms of to get immediate help and support. So there's the quick reference guides, which we've already talked about. Another option that we can click on is frequently asked questions. So when we click on frequently asked questions, 7 already prepared questions and answers come up. If you've used the quick reference guide and you've used the frequently asked questions and you still have a question that's not answered, then the best place to navigate that would be through your child story support. So whether that's your district or local person, or you can use the child story mailbox. If that was your first introduction to the RMD, I encourage you to be patient, stay hopeful, because that was a lot of jumping around, there was a lot of information to take in, but I really am genuinely saying that the RMD is a really user-friendly system, and the thing that I found the most helpful about it is you can't break it, you can't mess it up, but you can play with it, you can practice. There's lots of features that I haven't talked about that your colleagues won't necessarily share with you because they've just worked them out on their own by trial and error. But they're the things that will stay with you. They're the tools and the tricks that will become your go-to every day, and that, I really encourage that you share those with your colleagues, share them with your caseworkers, and be creative with how you can use the data, because one of the things that I've found is although caseworkers don't have access to RMD, they're actually really interested in the information that we can share with them about it, because it makes their job easier. So I encourage you to get out there, have a go, have a play, and good luck.